Livelembe Farm. Today, I've got a special guest, Yvonne Sibanda, author, goat farming trainer, and business development consultant. Yvonne, welcome to Livelembe Farm.
Thank you for having me, Sviso.
Yvonne, you recently wrote a book, Goat is Gold, where you describe goats as gold. From a financial perspective, what does that actually mean? What does it mean to someone who hasn't started goat farming? How can it be interpreted for the person who hasn't started goat farming?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for asking that question. I've had a lot of people ask it, so at least today I get to clear it out. Financially, goats are being compared to gold, because gold, everyone wants to have gold. Gold is that asset that everyone knows has value. So that is what I was trying to say, you know what? Goats are productive assets, and they can actually give you the value that gold can give you. So that is basically what I was trying to say. And if you see that with other assets, with time, they depreciate in value. But goats appreciate because they reproduce, just like gold. To say, gold always has a way of gaining value. Goats also gain value. But if you buy your house, maybe there's a roof leak, there's what, it depreciates. So hence me saying goat is gold.
Fantastic. Thank you for elaborating on that. So how should farmers begin to view goats as livestock or as investment assets? Because we know nearly every household, especially in our communal areas, in our rural areas, nearly everyone, has a goat. But I wonder whether they view their goats as assets. So how should farmers view goats as investments or as assets?
Okay, yeah. For me, I would say that goats are investment assets. Why I'm saying this is, number one, they generate return. When they give birth and you sell the kids, they also have measurable performance. You can tell that doe number 001 over the past 4 years is given birth to doe number what, or buck number what. So you can measure the performance, and they require management, and they grow in value. So that is what investments are. And even when I was saying it, I think you were thinking about your goat, that, okay, it can generate a return, it has measurable performance, it definitely requires management, and it grows in value. So when goats are treated emotionally, like pets, they consume money. But when they are treated strategically, they produce wealth. Hence, investment assets for me.
That's a very interesting way of putting it, Yvonne, and I believe that's quite clear to anyone who is listening. So it sounds like it's something that requires a kind of mindset shift, really, to move from subsistence goat keeping perhaps to wealth creation. What's your take on that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, I like that I've done a lot of trainings with you. So we've seen that a lot of people are still stuck, in the subsistence farming. So in order for goats to be gold for you, you definitely require a mindset shift. Move from saying, I'm just keeping goats, to breeding a business, a breeding portfolio. If you move from saying, I'm keeping goats, to I'm breeding a business portfolio for goats, the way you plan changes, the way you keep records changes, the way you measure performance changes. Most of all, the way you sell. I've had people come to me saying, I've got 10 goats to sell, and I'm saying, how much do you sell them for? And someone says, I don't know. How much do you think I should sell them for? And I'm thinking, okay, this person is keeping goats.
Because really and truly, you should know how much to sell them for. Yeah. Maybe that goat was meant to be for his chebonje, and then something comes up, an emergency. Maybe I need to sell this one.
Maybe let me sell it, but I'm so clueless how much to sell it for.
Yes. How much? Yeah. So those are very sort of telling signs whether somebody is in business or not, because really you should know your pricing strategy. You know?
Yeah. And remember, there is cost to it. So if I'm going to say your goats are $50 and probably your cost was $100, that's like you losing. When you come to me, you know your costs, so you know how much you want to make. But the reason why you're saying how much can you offer is you are so clueless. You didn't check anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And maybe you hardly put anything in, which is usually the case, because before I started goats, there were always goats at the farm. But I'll tell you something, because I was taking stock, but not of goats, of cattle. Yeah, because my cattle were business. So we'll always take stock. And just as let's count everything that's on the farm. And I'll always ask, and how many goats have we got? Do you know, for a number of years, it was always 37. And for me, as long as it didn't go down, no one was in trouble.
No one was stealing, my goats are 37. I know them by head, they are 37.
As long as they didn't go. And I remember distinctly one day, they did go down. 3 died at the same time, and they were electrocuted. Of course, that was an event, but we didn't know when they were giving birth, what was happening. But the number was always 37, and that was fine by me. But when I started buying goats for business, the story now changed. I wanted all my goats accounted for.
Because now you're breeding. You're creating a business portfolio in goat breeding. You stopped keeping goats.
Exactly. I stopped keeping goats because those ones were kept. Really. Those
ones were kept.
For those occasions when we wanted goat meat, we thought, let's kill one. So,
that's so true.
So moving on, what makes goats unique as a wealth building vehicle? You didn't say cattle is gold or cabbages gold. Why goats, and why did you choose to write a book about goats, and especially goats being a unique wealth building vehicle?
Okay, so why goats? I think that's your fault.
Okay,
you introduced me into goats.
I'm very happy to take the blame.
You introduced me into goats. And also, what I also liked about goats is it's a bit accessible for a lot of people. Like you said, it's something that probably everyone who's got village has. It's unlike cattle, whereby someone needs to be rich to have them. Your family would say, that man is really a man because he's got 10 cattle or something like that. Yes. But if someone has goats, no one mentions it. Meaning, it's just something ordinary that probably every other household can have. So that's something that's easy for everyone to start because it's something that's easily accessible. Even capital-wise, the capital is not as extensive, or when you're starting with something that is very, very big. So that for me, that's why I thought, okay, goats is something that can actually uplift people in my country because everyone already has. The only problem is we've been keeping them. So now if we are going to move from what we have, from keeping what we have and building business portfolios with what we already have, can you see that's something it's just amazing, that's mind-blowing experience to say, oh my God, I can actually build a business portfolio with something that I already have, instead of me saying I need capital. I can't get capital from the bank. The goats are already there. So what do we do to monetize the goats that are already there in our villages?
Thank you. I mean, that's a very valid point, that with goats, for most people, we don't have to start from ground zero. We just build up on what is already there.
Yeah.
Whether it's one goat or two goats, we can start from somewhere. And for most people, they do have some sort of experience with goats, because they're everywhere, aren't they? You only have to drive around, and they're just running around, all over the place. So we're not starting from ground zero, and we don't have to start from ground zero, but we can work with what we already have, and create something out of it. Okay, so as a farmer, I mean, and you know me, you know my story as a farmer. I'm sure my story is not unique, in the sense that, as farmers, we just tend to get bogged down with the business of looking after our animals, looking after our crops, and as long as there's money coming in, we're paying salaries. You pay your bills, your electricity bills, so that ZESA doesn't cut you off. For some of us, we even buy water from Zinwa. So as long as I can keep Zinwa happy, they don't cut me off for my water, I think I'm good. I'm in business. But there are certain things that we tend to overlook. The majority of us, not everyone, I speak for myself, and most likely maybe people of my generation. So please take us through, when we are in farming for business.
Yes.
How does someone calculate return on investment in a breeding enterprise? Okay. Since we are talking about goats, and we are talking breeding, not keeping goats.
Very good question. So when you are saying that I am now breeding goats and I want this to be a business, I want to unlock the value in goats, most of all, you need to put a value to your goats. How much did you buy your bag for? And when you are buying it, what is your strategy? For example, when we go online, we see a lot of these auctions, especially in South Africa, and someone buys a bag for $500,000. Mm-hmm. They don't just buy that bag for $500,000 with $10.
Right.
Because the value there. Yes. So if you are going to buy that goat, that bag for $500,000, why are you buying it?
Yes.
You need to ask your questions like that. And then your breeding ratio. This one bag, what is my breeding ratio from this one bag to these females? Remember, the bag eats. The bag needs someone to take care of. Mm-hmm. The bag needs vaccines. The bag needs beds. So imagine you buying 10 bags and 10 does, and then breeding with one bag. And then the rest of the 5 months when the goats are pregnant, plus another 2 months when they are breastfeeding, those bags are being fed for nothing. Now you've got unnecessary costs. So now you need to be strategic to say, okay, do I need this? And why do I need this? Basically, that is your capital. What are you putting in? And are you allocating it properly? Number two, your costs. What is the cost of me raising this animal? You can try and cost them as a group and then divide by the number of animals there. It's going to also help you to say to price at the end. For example, if you are going to raise 10 animals, do you need to hire 2 guys to look after the 10 animals? Because remember, those people are going to be, your wages is going to go up. So now you need to minimize your costs. And also on our costs, there's the vaccines. For example, our pulpy kidney, maybe it does 40 per batch. So now, do I need to start with 10 and lose that 40 once I vaccinate, or I've got money to start with 40? Because if I've got money to start with 40 now, it's going to help me that when I vaccinate, I do not lose anything. Everything that I'm buying, I'm using. Hence me minimizing my costs. I hope that makes sense. And then after that, check your expenses. Are these expenses that I'm going to have linking to the goat business? For example, if you're going to take money from goats and go on holiday, please, that's not linking to the goat business. So you can't put it as an example to say, then I decided to go to Harare because I was feeling stressed. And then when I'm doing your goat books, you say, okay, put your expense there. You need to have expenses related to the business. Remember, we're moving from subsistence. I know people would argue and say, Yvonne, it's the same person, it's the same pocket. But if you want to treat it as a business, treat it as a business when it's small, so that when it scales up, you do not have problems. Because if you do not separate your personal and your business when it's small, you're going to have a serious challenge when it scales up. Because now you've got 200,000 in your pocket and you think, oh my God, I'm rich. But maybe that 200,000 is for costs. And then after 6 months, you've got nothing to pay your costs because you spent the 200,000 because you thought it was yours. So always manage those things. Check your investment, check your operating costs, check your operating expenses. And that, in that regard, you'll see if this is worth doing, if this is profitable. And it also helps you to adjust, to say, okay, my costs are a bit high. What can I do to minimize them? But if you are not having these heads that you are checking, you will never minimize anything. So that is my advice on farmers, to say, I've really, really simplified it. I didn't use my fancy accounting terms, so that it's simple. Anyone can just write and say, okay, what is operating costs or what is expenses?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for clarifying on that. And just to pick up on a point that you made, especially when new farmers are starting out on a goat farming business, sometimes you mentioned the ratios, the back to door ratio, that there are times when it doesn't make financial sense. And I completely agree with you, because bucks generally, if it, I would say per unit cost, are more expensive than females. So sometimes the advice that I give to a farmer who is starting out and they really just want to test the waters, I suggest that perhaps instead of buying five females and an expensive buck, maybe buy 5 pregnant females. The idea being that eventually when they get round to buying a buck, that buck can service the 5 original females plus the offspring. So just as a way, of getting people to think about how they are spending, their money.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so
that's true.
Yeah, so back to female ratio is very, very important, farmers.
And remember,
go ahead, go on.
Remember, we spoke. We spoke when you say back female ratio. I thought about us when we actually mentioned to say sometimes we get emotional. Every goat farmer wants to have that huge pack that when people come to visit, see it. And then they tell people that I bought it for 2,000 US or something like that. But if it is not giving you money at that time, decide when you have to buy it. Like you're saying, advice, just buy females. Then the females don't need a buck if they're already pregnant. And the kids also don't need a buck until they are ready to mate. So now you've got all this time to be feeding less the buck and taking good care of these females so that you prepare them from when you buy the buck, and you're also minimizing your costs. So that is very, very good. Sometimes, emotions and egos in business, are the downfall of us.
Absolutely. Or just not knowing when we are leaking money in a business. And for me, that's something that became evident with experience. And just listening to farmers when they start, one male, one female, and sometimes they're talking about a boer goat, right? One female boer goat, one male boer goat, and already you are looking at more than $1,000. And yet if you know and understand the ratios issue, you would not do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Another question or discussion that I usually have with new farmers, or that I struggle to articulate. I know how long it takes me, or how long it took me to recover my costs, but it's so difficult to articulate because everybody brings a different scenario when they first enter into goat farming. And realistically, how long does it take one to recover their initial capital in goat breeding? So when I send people to you to do their sums for them, how do you explain this to them? For me, I understand because I've done it, but sometimes I don't always know how to articulate it.
Okay. So I will try to minimize it very, very, to try and make it easy, not too financial, not too mathematical, because I know people be like, that's too much, Yvonne. So your money, when it comes to goats, it comes from your offsprings. Because, you bought that back for 500 or 2,000, but, if you sell it, you're probably going to sell it for the same amount or for less. So that's not where your money is coming from. Your money is coming from the offsprings to say, okay, so after mating, this is what these female does gave me. And after making these kids grow, this is what I'm going to sell them for. So now what you need to calculate first is like to say, okay, you've got 5 months of pregnancy. So you're definitely going to get your money on that 5 months because they're still carrying. Then on top of that, you've got another 3 months to weaning. They're kids, and then they're weaned. You are not going to sell them there. They're still young. And then after that, you still have to give them time to grow. Depending on how much you invested, in terms of you saying, okay, I'm starting with 5. You'll find that if you started with 5 and 1 buck, your costs are already a bit high, but the kids that you're going to have, they are not going to maybe give you a return on the buck on the first cycle when they are sold. So probably you're not going to sell your first animals after a year, the first kids after a year. So already you've started. You haven't touched your money in a year. This is your first kids. Now the return now, depending on the number of animals that you started with, you find that you probably start to say, okay, I've managed to break even within the second or the third year. But remember, like I said, it depends with your business model. So it's important for you to actually try and get a business plan done or a business model done before you invest the money. Because it's going to help you to say, okay, I can carry this business on my back for a year or two. Because sometimes, especially us young people, I probably took a loan from the bank and they want it in 6 months. And then I invest it in goats. And then I'll come back and I'll be really, really pissed off. Because after 6 months, that's probably my kids are probably a month old or maybe that is when the goats are giving birth. Now the money is wanted back. So it depends. But yeah, from 2 to 3 years, you can start getting your return on investment. But plan it first, because you'll find that there are some things that you can tweak in order to get it a bit earlier. But you will never know if you didn't plan. If you just get in there and just buy and then put the animals in the pen and say, let's start breeding without doing some numbers, it's difficult for you to actually even break even within those 2 to 3 years. It might even take you 5 years. So planning is also important. I hope I've responded and people understand. I'm sorry, I won't give you an exact figure to say, oh, Shaman, after 1 year, you get your money back. Remember, it's livestock. But 2 to 3 years, yeah.
But maybe if I can add that
Yes.
most businesses generally take that long. You're looking at 3 to 5 years. And according to statistics, most business collapse within 3 to 5. Within 3 to 5 years.
Absolutely.
So goat breeding is no different, really. Maybe it does require maybe more discipline. I don't know. More delayed. What do they call it? The word is just gone. You know, some of the benefits of getting old. You do forget delayed gratification. That's the word I was looking for. So yeah, businesses, take that much that long before you start to see a return. Most of the time, especially those first 5 years, you're pumping money into the business.
Yeah.
I've been farming for 12 years. And trust me, because I mean it's seasonal. Sometimes, yes, you hit it big. But as you scale, then you realize I still have to put money in, There's infrastructure required. All sorts of things. You're upgrading. I mean, I started with 9 matebeles, which I bought for $120 each. And at that time I thought, oh my goodness, this is a lot of money. And the reason was that they were bred with a Kalahari red. I still didn't quite understand what that meant, but we wanted to start, so we were willing to pay for it. But now I do not bat an eyelid when somebody tells me their goat is 500, because I understand now. The value, the value of gold. So there's that as well. So imagine that's me. I started at 120. Now I'm not batting an eyelid at buying it at 500. So I could find myself putting more money into it. And I'm 7 years into this business. So yeah, I think farming, breeding is just like any other business. Scaling has a cost, but I'm sure you will tell us about it.
Scaling is 100%. That is really, really true.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. You've told us how to calculate the return on investment in a breeding enterprise. You have told us realistically when we can expect to, number 1, break even, number 2, make a profit. So what factors most influence profitability in a business, in a breeding business?
Oh yeah, thank you so much for that, Siso. Because someone might take my calculations and forget the factors. That's a very, very good question. Number 1, first and foremost, mortality. Imagine you starting with your 10 goats and then they die, and then after the 2 to 3 years, you're expecting your money back. There's nothing because they've died. So mortality control.
That's such a common scenario. Here we are not even working with is a hypothesis
with mortality. Yeah. Yeah, mortality is real.
Yes.
So now like we're saying, we're not saying cancel mortality, because no matter how hard you work, things die. Yes. So control it. Yes, mortality control is important. So that's one of the first things that influence profitability in goat breeding. Number two, nutrition. I think we've had people talking about, what can we do about nutrition? Nutrition is important. What are you giving them? Yes, because you can't give them less food and expect them to give you better kids and better money. You know, they are now thin, they are dying, the kids are not surviving because the mothers are not getting the proper nutrition. So it's important to know the nutrition that you need for the particular animal that you are breeding. So that's number two. Number three, genetics. Some types of goats have more money coming in than some types of goats. For example, you can start your indigenous breeding with less capital, but at this particular moment, I'm not saying it will not change. You cannot sell a Matebele goat with the same value to a Boer goat when you're selling them as breeding animals. It might change because, we've got these entrepreneurs coming up saying, I also want to do 100% pure Matebele. That's going to be like a Boer goat. But currently, right now, if a customer says, I want a Matebele goat, and you say, no, my Matebele back is 2,000, I do not think you'll get a custom at the moment.
At the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to sell one for 2,000 though.
Yeah, it's if you work towards it, so it's a possibility. Like you're saying, have your Pure Matebele farm. And we know that if you need pure Matebele genes, go to Wilembe farm. So now you find other people coming even from South Africa where we're getting to the Boer goat, because your animal now is attractive to them. Now it's got value. So that can be done, but currently it's not practical. So genetics also matter. Number two, market positioning. Like I said, you can't breed the animal and then when it's ready to be sold, you come to me and say, I want to sell an animal, please make an offer. You need to position to say, okay, I am breeding this animal for this market and I am going to sell it at this price range. So you need to position yourself in the market. I believe, you've done a lot of market positioning yourself, Sfiso, and a lot of people can actually learn from you. You've been doing market positioning for a very, very long time, even way before you even started selling.
Is that what it is? I probably did it without even realizing that's what it's called. Oh, is what it's called? Okay.
Is that what it's called? You just did it because you knew you needed to do it.
Yes, I knew I needed to sell my gold.
So now, what you need to know is profitability is not influenced just by one thing. If you concentrate on the nutrition and leave everything else, you're probably going to have very healthy animals that gave you a loss. They are beautiful. Everyone wants to buy them. Yes. But because you didn't check the market positioning, you didn't check the mortality control, you didn't check the genetics, you still not make profit. So these are some of the things that influence profitability in goat breeding. And I know the ways that people don't like records. Keep records. I know someone would say, how do records influence profitability? They influence profitability because you need to know what you are selling. You're the person that buys from you needs to, if you have a breeding plan, you need to know that, okay, this year I bred this doe twice, it gave me this. Or this year, this doe, I bred it, and then even after giving it a back, it didn't carry. And it's 3 years in a row now, it's easy eating and it's not carrying. You can know that by records. You can't keep that all in your head. And now imagine you've got a sister there in the pens, living 5 years, not giving you any kids, but you are feeding because you didn't have any records to say, this one is not performing. So records are part of profitability. They influence profitability. Please, let's keep records. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Indeed, very, very important, record keeping. And farmers, maybe just to give you a quick rundown of some of the records. Yvonne, in your book, what kind of records are you asking or advising farmers to keep? Just a quick rundown, Nje, of the kind of records that farmers need to keep.
Okay, so I'll just mention a few because there's quite a number of records that you can keep. But number one, always keep your breeding records. Those are essential. Number two, you need to record your mortality because you need to check how you are controlling your mortality. You can't control what you do not know. Number three, keep your health records. Keep your health records. Like a baby card. When you give birth to your child, they give you that baby card and say, day one, you should come and vaccinate for this. Day two, you should come and give them a vitamin. Day three, so keep that record. It's really, really important. The health records are very important. Number three, keep records. For example, what you do with the animals. Let's say, for example, BAC001 is an animal, a dog. So if BAC001 has a disease in January, keep that record. It's important because you might, at the end of the year, when you are actually culling or selling animals for meat, you actually say, okay, this animal has survived. Just because I've mastered the art of treatment and probably by grace, it survived. But it's not good for me to continue keeping it. That is what you sell. Because if you do not keep those records, guess what? You are going to sell your performance, your best performance, and you're with underperformance because you do not have records. So those are some of the records that you can keep. And also, I know it sounds ridiculous, but keep your dipping records. Remember, one of the killer diseases that is caused by the goat teeth for goats, it can be prevented by dipping. So having a dipping record also helps your staff to dip. Because if you say, did you dip when you were not there and there is no record, they will tell you that they did. But it's difficult for someone, yes, there are liars that will tell you, even write lies on the record and say, it's 2 o'clock on the 14th of February, I dipped P0, what, yeah, you get people like that, but it's rare. But if you say, did you dip and there is no record, someone is just inclined to say, it's survival instinct. Yes, I dipped. So some of all these performing things that you do to your animals, you need to keep records of those. So keep your kids. When you keep from kids to winning, how many kids did survive? It also helps you to say, okay, do I make mistakes more on kidding, or what can be done to improve my kids moving from kidding to winning? From winning, how many goats do I take to say I win this? Maybe I win 20, but now when they've grown up, only 5 grow. So what happens to 15? What can I do to reduce that? It's also important. So there's quite a number of records that you can keep, and sometimes they can even be farm-based, because you see that at my farm, this is practical. This is what is practical for me.
On point. Thank you so much for that. So we've talked about a lot of things in the past 40 minutes or so. Now, in your experience, what kind of financial mistakes do new goat farmers or goat investors make at the start of their journey?
Okay. So before answering that one, I would like to go back and say, please keep financial records. It wouldn't prudent for me to say to mention all these records and then not mention financial records, because Remember, we want to make money. This is a business. So financial records, yes. Financial mistakes that beginners make. I think we all of us make mistakes when we're starting, especially with money, because our relationship sometimes with money is different from individual to individual. Some people believe in buying cheap. That can be a mistake. You think I'm investing less, you know. This guy said to me that there are these goats that I have that are $20 each. And then you go there and then you buy those goats for $20 and you buy 100. And most of them, maybe they're coming from a red zone, meaning that they've got probably some worms or some diseases that you cannot move and breed with other goats. You bring those cheap goats into your head, you think you are adding, but you're destroying what you already have. So try and understand why that animal is cheap. That's one thing. Number two, selling early. I know I've got a lot of customers that come and say, Yvonne, I want to buy kids. And now you're thinking, okay, if I sell you a kid as a breeder, if I sell you a kid, how much would you want for it? For example, if a Matebele goat is going for $60 to $100, and then this is a grown-up, someone will probably want to give me 10% of that for a kid. Is that profit for me? Remember, the profit for me is the offspring of my animals. So try and avoid selling too early, because someone will say, so why would you want to sell me that animal for $60 to $100 when it's a kid? But I don't make money when I sell you a kid. Make sense?
Yeah.
Number two, you need to have some money that they call them working capital. For example, I'll share a story about a cooperative that would actually, you know, a lot of people come together and say we want to do this thing, but there was no money at hand at a particular time. So now the manager wants to breed, but before you breed the animals, you prepare them. You know, they call it flash feeding. Now there is no money for flash feeding. The animals are not in good condition. So now they skip breeding. But if you skip breeding for that time, imagine you've already lost how many months. At the end of the day, it's not like these goats, if they are not bred, they still don't eat. They still eat. They still need to be vaccinated. They still need to have employees. But the worst part is there are no offsprings that we are waiting for, because we didn't have that working capital to say, okay, let's prepare for this. So now imagine you losing a whole year of profit. Because if those kids are not born and then you're still trying to say, maybe let me wait for the rainy season because I can't get them in good condition. So can you see now? You've lost how much profit if you've lost a breeding cycle. You can't lose a breeding cycle because the kids are your profit. That's another mistake. And records. Oh my God. Records. Get into the farm, ask, okay, Yvonne, help us breed. We want to do a breeding schedule. Okay, how many females do we have? 20. Okay, so these 20 females, were they born here? Yeah, some were born here, some were bought. Which ones were born here? We're not sure. Probably that brown one. And there's probably 5 brown animals in the. So I think that brown one and that brown one. Now maybe we are now going to inbreed, because you've got no idea which back fathered which. So now you are busy in there. And like I said, you didn't on records. You know, there's a lot of records. You didn't vaccinate. Now, if you are going to have kids after that, then there's a disease that attacks the animal. You don't even know how it's attacking your animals because you've got no records. You don't even know that, okay, guys, before this season was supposed to block, before this season was supposed to do this. So all those records are beginners' mistakes, which actually end up being financial mistakes. Because if your goats die, your profit has died. Right? So money is gone. The last one, expanding too fast. Expanding is basically speciation scaling. I've started with my 10 goats. You know, they give me 10 kids. and then maybe I have a good run. Only 2 die. I've got eight alive, and now I'm thinking I'm a guru. Guess what I do? I go and buy 100 females. Same resources, same stuff, same what. Now I've got 100. My guy was very good at managing 10 goats. Will they be good at managing 100 goats? Then I breed those 100 at the same time. Now they are all kidding at the same time. Do I have the facilities? Can you see? I've expanded too fast. Now I've fed 100 females, and they've managed to probably fall pregnant, and then they start losing the kids. Some abort, some the kids don't grow. At the end of the cycle, I'm still sitting on 110.
Yeah.
I've expanded, but I've lost.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense. It's not expensive.
It's now expensive.
And yes.
Very common.
Yeah.
Can I please add my own?
Yes, please.
Thinking that getting your workers trained is expensive.
That's a good one.
Worker who doesn't know.
That's a good one.
Then you know what expensive is.
That's a good one, Swiso. That's a good one.
Because I say it all the time. I mean, we are always offering training, but the people who already have the goats really send their headsmen for training, and they entrust them with these high value animals without a day's training, and they expect miracles from these guys, and it usually ends in tears, sadly. So yeah, sometimes cutting costs on training for your staff is actually inviting expenses into your business. Yeah, when things go. So let's invest in getting our guys trained. Okay, thank you so much, Yvonne. I think we've covered those mistakes that farmers or investors make in the early days. Now, moving on, you talk about herd growth as compounding capital. Can you please elaborate on this concept for us, please?
Okay. Don't let the compounding fool you. It's very simple. I know sometimes if someone uses a term and then now they are compounds, this is complicated. No, it's not complicated. This basically means that I invested, let's say I bought my does at $100 each. I invested $1,000 for my 10 does. Then those 10 does gave me kids. Let's just say they gave me 10 kids. From those 10 kids, 5 are female. So on my next cycle, instead of me breeding 10, I'm now breeding 15. This is after these kids are weaned, not as soon as they are kids. There's a stage when they are weaned and they are also ready. They are now grown. So now that is what we call compounding capital, because the money that I put in, I don't necessarily need to continue buying extra kids to say, let me buy extra does. Sorry, not kids, extra does. The does can grow within the head. So now I can retain and have my breeding females within the same head. So this is what we call compounding capital. So the earlier you structure your head, the faster it multiplies. I hope I explained it very, very clearly and easy.
Absolutely. It's very, very clear.
Okay.
Now, it's almost time for us to wind up, but clearly this is not going to be the last of our conversations. Now, for somebody looking to buy your book, Goat is Gold, where can they find a copy?
Okay. So for someone looking to buy Goat is Gold, Unlocking the Secrets to a Successful Breeding Business, you can get in touch with me on 0771 967 856. I'll repeat it again, 0771 967 856. So we've got a selling spot in Bulawayo. It's Love Basket Gift Shop, which is on Robert Mugabe between 8 and 9 Avenue. So that's our selling spot currently in Bulawayo. But that doesn't mean if you're not in Bulawayo, you cannot buy the book. Get in touch with me. We find means to send you the book.
We can always put it on a bus or something.
Exactly.
Traveling to Harare.
Do you know my book has flown? I've had people buying the book for me, and then someone is going to to America. People fly. And then, it humbles me when someone says, "Hi, Yvonne, I'm in America. I've received your book." And I feel like I've gone to America also.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we close, maybe let's just address one more question, for you. Right.
Yes.
How can a small herd grow into a significant financial asset over time? This question is important for me, and because of my age, hey. Where that
because you're in
2000. I'm not a spring chicken, and neither are some of my my followers, and I always talk about goats as a retirement plan. I don't know. Please take us through how one can, it's very easy to think I'll never retire or I'll never grow old, when you are 20 years old. But suddenly you are 45, then you start to think, how can I grow a small herd into a significant financial asset over time? So over time can be anything from 5 to 10 years. Just give us your thoughts on that.
Okay, so I'll answer that firstly by asking you a question. If I visit your farm and you want to slaughter a goat for me, how do you go about choosing the goat to slaughter for me?
Okay, for me, it's very easy because right before, after every kidding cycle, by the time we win, we've already weeded out goats for meat. We know them. We have a pack. The mothers, you mentioned the does, record keeping, the performance. We have does that we would have identified, hopefully not too many. It goes back again to record keeping. Okay, this one, she gives birth. This is her third baby, but it's tiny. She's doing it the third time, or she hasn't got milk and she gives birth to tiny babies, or she gives birth to babies and they die. She doesn't know how to look after her kids. We always give them a chance, but do it 3 times, you are ready for the pot. So you get one of those mothers who are not good performers, or you get kids that we have identified as not suitable to sell as breeding males. So yeah, that's how.
I'm so happy I asked and expect that question. But I know when I asked you the question, someone in their mind thought, what sort of a question is that? I'll just get into the spire and just pick a goat and slot. Yeah. So my point is, back then, when people get into the pen, they'll always slaughter the most beautiful one. But that's not a goat for slaughter. That's something that you retain. Retain quality. Always retain quality for breeding. And you explained it perfectly. So that's another way to grow your small herd. Because imagine if you're going to have 5 goats that always give you twins. So now you've got 10 kids from 5 goats. Instead of you giving 20 goats, 10 of them, they abort, 5 of them give you small kids that don't grow. Now you've fed more females, but you've got less in returns. So quality. Always keep your quality breeding animals. Number 1. Number 2, improve your genetics. We always say start where you're standing, but it doesn't mean continue standing when you started, eh? I hope I got the English properly.
Yeah, this one I have to think.
Start where you're standing.
Don't stand where you start. What did you say?
I'm saying we always say start where you are standing, but don't continue standing where you started.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So improve the genetics. I started with a buck that I so no, it's okay. It's not that good. But when I'm growing, let me get an improved gene, because I want we are all working towards the perfect animal. So you get that by continuously improving the genetics. You'll find that when you talk to the Mbofus and the Gajenis, they'll tell you that they are still improving their heads up to now. But when you go and buy their back, you think, oh my God, this is the best ever. But that person is still improving their genetics. So you always need to improve. Then the other one, managing. Management is very good on growing your assets. I'm saying this because if you buy your fancy animal or your fancy animals, most of you have done it. You get that back because you saw it and it was very nice. And then when you visit your farm after 6 months, you are asking yourself, is that the same animal?
Yeah.
Which means if you bought it for 2,000, there is no way you are going to sell that animal for 2,000 because you've not managed it well. It has also lost value. So just imagine that animal is giving you. That's another one. And the other one, reinvest your profits. Remember, you said scale up, reinvest. You started with your small pen and you said, no, I'm not going to do this because I'm starting small. But then now you've got a big head and you still want that big head to be manageable in that small space. You need to reinvest, continuously improve. Remember, this is your business, right? So that's how you grow. If you make a profit for $100, reinvest it. Are you going to start for the bank? Are you going to get more doors? Are you going to upgrade your back? Are you going to upgrade? Look at something that you can reinvest in that business before you start going to Maldives. There's going to time where you're going to be going to Maldives, but it's not when you start, okay? We always say don't eat the seed, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Please don't eat the seed. And remember, small disciplined beginnings outperform large, chaotic heads. I think I've explained. Chaos. The head is very big and very chaotic.
Yes, I think maybe some of us have been there, done that and got the t-shirt, but thankfully, we learn, we progress, we change.
Now we are telling them, hey?
Yeah.
Yes. And so now you also don't need to do it because someone is telling you that, dude, I had a large chaotic head and it didn't do well for me. So you don't need to also have it and say, I want to see chaos for myself.
Yeah. I'll tell you where I had that chaos. It was cattle. But through my goats, through managing my goats well, I've also learned to manage my cattle. But funnily enough, I started with cattle, you know, but the goats have taught me how to look after my cattle now. Now I've tidied up, you know, my head, you know, it was full of, you know?
Exactly.
You know, so yes, we learn. Farming is still very new to most of us. So anyway, Yvonne, Miss Yvie, thank you so much for today. We'll be back again on another podcast looking at cash flow versus long-term wealth in goat breeding. Now, remember, yes, it's going to be a good one. Remember to like this podcast or this video, subscribe, and please share this content. And Miss Yvie is also on YouTube. What's your YouTube channel called?
Miss Yvie.
Miss Yvie. So easy to remember. Thank you so
easy
much.
to remember. Hey? If you just say Miss Yvie, don't worry about what's in front. You're going to have it. But it's called Miss Yvie from airports to vision.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me, Fiso, and do have a pleasant day and enjoy growing your goat business.
Indeed.
Thank you.